Okay, ladies and gentlemen, FanFest season has wrapped up. And we have now gone through all 3 FanFests, and we will not have another one until we are getting prepared to be done with Dawn Trail. We'll be so bored of it. And so as we prepare to go into that, keep in mind that this FanFest is different in that Part 3 usually comes after the 0.55 patch. And so we'll go over the date on that and kind of some predicted dates for when that means Dawn Trail is coming. But it opened with the trailer. And in true Final Fantasy fashion, they always add a little bit more with each of the 3 FanFests. And so this was our longest, and it revealed the Frothgar. So frothy. And so the new female Roth, who will be accompanying us in the new land as we work our way westward.
Southeast, west. We're heading west. Yeah. Wagons west, baby.
They left this at summer 2024, so just to get right out in front of it, anybody that was expecting there to be pre-orders today or a date today, those are tied together. So because there was not one,
I was expecting it, didn't get it, but we do and have been very accurate at predicting and dates and things like that. So what is your date range, high and low end, so people can start to expect, what sets some expectations?
Any of you that don't know, I have a spreadsheet called the MMO Spreadsheet of Epic Nerdiness, and it tracks every single patch, not just in Final Fantasy, but in other games as well. But the Final Fantasy one is the most detailed spreadsheet portion I have. And as I go back and I look at deltas between patches and half patches and 0.5, 0.55, and expansions specifically, this is the longest gap from a 0.5 to a 0.55, and it will likely be one of the longer gaps between a 0.55 and the expansion to try to get them back on that summer cadence. We also found out that Savage is going to be a month after the expansion, historically being 2 weeks, is how Yoshi P phrased it this evening. So that sounds like we could have it. That is over a year for Savage players. So I am sorry for you guys. We've seen that in the past. It caused a bit of burnout. It also caused some unique little like ultimate type content to get community generated. So maybe we'll get that this round. I predict that the earliest 7.0 could launch is May 31st. And I got to that date by assuming that 6.58, when Savage unlocked, would be on January 30th. And that came from assuming that we would get the half patch on January 16th. Now, we did get confirmed that the half patch will be on January 16th. And so that does sound like end of May, early June would be kind of right where we're at. That is the earliest possible date. Now, when I originally also calculated this out, I did this like maybe 4 or 5 months ago. I had a secondary date because they were being really vague about things. And I ended up coming up with a different date through some much looser math instead of following things so literally. And I came up with July 26th. And I think that's really late. But based on this evening, I was worried. I was like, what if that's early? What if it's like August?
Gives me more time to lose the rest of this weight though. So, and that's my birthday. So it's like, maybe, well, who knows?
So I think that leads us to kind of those ranges. Based on this evening, I think it would trend more towards the front of that range, but I should probably wait for Mr. Happy's number and then act like it was my idea all along. Because if I'm ever wrong, it's because Hap's got it right. So that's kind of my guess based on that. I did get 6.55 spot on. I don't think I'm alone in that prediction. It was right where it was supposed to be. Yeah. So much about this expansion was on time right up until the part where they said they were going to correct the expansion timing. Yeah. And then the other big date in the room is the Xbox release date. They had kind of said mid-January to February is kind of what it sounded like.
Now they were saying like February 21st, maybe.
February, and it sounds like late February.
Late February.
But that's very exciting as well. And then we're getting a 16 crossover in April. So there will be things between now and then. We should get some live letters going into the expansion. And then there's a media tour, which has historically been roughly a month before the expansion. Hard to predict the date exactly because I never know the date that the tour happens versus the embargo date. Like, a lot of the dates associated with it are not public. And so like, I either don't have them, or if I do have them, it's because in those years I have signed something saying what date. And so the couple times that I've been involved in them, I don't actually know what you're talking about. And we share what we can when we can. So Doesn't matter if we get invited or not this time. We won't talk about it either way, because we won't know, or we won't know.
Let's talk about the new job. This is and has been speculated was Pictomancer. I was holding out hope for Time Mage whatsoever, Ninja Turtles in Time, but it went with obviously the Renaissance painters, and we see Pictomancer coming from Final Fantasy VI. They went into some detail about naming conventions, but this is going to be Pictomancer. So if you're in German, it's no longer the Dumont. It is now the Pictomont. So that was something I thought was fascinating, because this is this was, I think, the only job that was like either exclusive to 6 or at least first premiered in Final Fantasy VI. And to see this come back, I think is personally exciting. Obviously, clear differences. Caster DPS will not have a raise. So, and we're assuming that Red Mage and Summoner keep their reses. So you're going to see it kind of fall into something to complement Black Mage. Maybe we'll see. But what do you think, Riz?
I was excited that Krile got to be the job that was one of the predictions, and that we would get to see Kryle's new garb in the trailer. So that was a great reveal for it. The cosmetics of it are so out of place with the other jobs for the animations that I'm not. You can watch the job trailer for yourself. I'm not totally sold yet. Now, I wasn't sold right away on Reaper, if I remember correctly. I don't remember being particularly passionate about it. But now that we've gotten to spend some time with our Reaper character in Endwalker, and I've gotten a chance to do the story myself to the Reaper, I feel like, that kind of brought me around on it.
Yeah.
And so maybe that'll be here, but like I didn't immediately latch onto it like I did some of the other news that we got this evening.
Yeah. And there was a lot of news, but I do echo what you kind of felt like. While I am more in the Pictomancer camp, it does feel vastly different from Viper, and I think a lot of that has to do with some of the sound effects designed, and a lot of painting happening, which will be interesting to see.
Very easy to go back and see his Ninja Turtle reference, being classic painters. It'll start in Gridania. It'll start at level 80, and so like everything else about it is predictable. Won't have a class. Duplicant versus Pictomont was like an interesting side moment into how localization takes place. But everything else about the job, it's going to work just like every other job that gets added to the game.
Yeah.
So nothing shocking there. All right. As we go into a little bit further, they do confirm that 6.55 main scenario is the 16th. For anybody that this is their first expansion and you've never done this, the half patch for the last patch, the 0.55, is the only patch that has main scenario in it. And that is also, if you've noticed the pattern, why your last quest of 0.5 was not the name of the patch. And that is because you're not done with the story for the 0.5 cycle. So if you're late to the game and you've gone through previous expansions, you did 0.5 and 0.55 without stopping when you were in those expansions. But now that you're caught up, there is normally a delay. It is not normally this long. And so that does make it the meatiest of the half patches, but it also has to last you the longest, even historically speaking, this time for sure. And then your Savage usually releases roughly 2 weeks after the half patch of the odd number. So since Savage is on the evens, 0.0, 0.2, 0.4, that means in 0.1, 0.3, 0.5, when we get to the half patch, the 0.7 or 0.8, depending on how they number it, is when we're going to unlock that Savage. So if that kind of helps, you kind of understand what goes with what. You also slowly catch the pattern of what comes in a half patch versus what comes in a main patch, because they're trying to just distribute it so that you don't feel like you have to do everything at once, and so that those of you that go really hard on the game, that they've kind of held a little bit back for you so that you're not hungry later.
Yeah.
The next big announcement was Japanese data center. For any of you that followed the roadmap, which was, I guess, over a year ago, my gosh, February of 2023. This is expected. These do cause like some 24-hour maintenance and stuff, but they're just rolling these out. Not all of them have gone exactly to the predicted dates, but they are doing their best. And then it was time to kind of refresh people on where we're at. They revealed a little more of the map.
Yeah.
Very Central and South American in theme, and they revealed some more clouds up here. Ilsabard is still very clouded, but they did reveal some more Tyrol.
Lots of clouds still in this world. You can see Mericidia down here. Let's go.
But it's definitely zoomed out. For those of you that are asking how my map project is going, where I'm going through and correcting what is wrong with this map, because believe it or not, this map, which I believe is canonically wrong, because this map was drawn by a character in game. Let's ignore. Let's treat this map as canon, and this map is canon because there is an artist in game who went around. He's long since dead, and I think that this was drawn by him, and then the calamity and everything else, and I think there's some inaccuracies. But when I go zone by zone, I've been correcting it, and I'm only dealing with the original 3 there. Nothing with Tyrol, for anybody that kind of wondered on that. And then I'll share more on that map as it comes a little further along. The new zones look awesome,
especially when we get into
what is this?
Yeah, absolutely insane. So insane, in fact, the joke is that we were talking about this is CD Projekt Final Fantasy 14. Like, oh my gosh, it looks Cyberpunk 2077, and it's Solution 9 was the name that they gave it, but you can see here it's a towering city it's been constructed, and it almost looks like a PC in some images too. So it's absolutely
the raid
insane.
Seems to be set here. So they did show off an image for the raid when we got the name, and then underneath it there seems to be this city that's like this totally different thing with like a phantom train and all of that. Heritage found, which seems to take place, it looks like underneath that, but I don't know. So it's there's been some speculation that it's a Final Fantasy VIII reference. I've been seeing that in the chat, and there's been some references where I saw some people kind of posting things. I was Googling throughout the live letter to kind of look up all these things, because I do not know the Final Fantasy games near as well as you guys. But some references to Midgard, some references to Esther. We'll see. Now with allies, the allies diverse population of Mammal Jaw, drastically different, and then a chance to kind of see some reuses of some others. Remember, this is not news, but we are going to level cap 100. For anybody that kind of wonders what happens after this, when Yoshi P said that we were going to 100, when he originally said this, he said he was conflicted about this, and that this seemed like the best solution for now, but that he felt like if this already didn't feel quite Final Fantasy enough, he definitely thought 110 was worse. So do not be shocked if something different happens next expansion, or maybe they don't know how to solve it and they just keep kicking that can down the road. That's what WoW did. They just let it keep spinning away from them, and even when they reset it, they had a really graceful reason at the time, and that didn't end up working out either. So new jobs, 2 new jobs this expansion, both DPS, Pictomancer and Viper, for anybody that has not been following the news up to this point. And then everything else about the expansion is as expected. So expect updates to fates, updates to hunts, updates to treasure hunts. All the side quests are going to be level synced, just like they've been. There will be dungeons. They showed off some images of the bosses. The duty support system is going to get updated. Cryo will be in it as a Pictomancer. And then the gear with the graphics update looks awesome.
Leather and metal.
Leather was the big winner in my opinion.
See, here on screen, the velvet, like it just kind of bleeds the machinist with the leather there, and when they went in to spend time with the character stuff, we got a good laugh. We were having fun with that. Hopefully you guys check out our highlight video of us just laughing at the graphics update, but then at the same time praising, like, just keep showing us leather, like that's all you got to do.
Just show us 4 pictures of leather and move on. Now, lifestyle content. That's the one thing that when we did our pre-show before this a couple days ago, I said, like, that's what's missing. We haven't found out what the lifestyle content is. And this is going to be Cosmic Exploration, I think was the name there. There it is. And so that is going to be a chance to go to multiple planets, is how it was phrased. And so that it looks, based on the image and based on the description, maybe something kind of Diadem-esque, less restoration, but it's still a little, I don't know. It's hard to say. They said it can be enjoyed alone, but it's meant to be done in groups, so we'll see. and that the world or the star that we're on is going to change kind of as we progress it. I don't know if that's your own star or if we're progressing it as a group.
Right.
I'm sure people are already asking for lunar housing or whatever just based on the image, because I know I was already like, whoa, I never thought we'd get lunar housing. Like, that's what that image tells me, but that does not seem to be the goal. And then it's time to talk about the bigger content besides MSQ, and that is our raid content.
Yes.
With the Alliance raid being Echoes of Anadil, this was revealed in a previous FanFest, but now we have an image.
Yes, Shadow Lord is definitely being teased. Now, as to what and why and who and how it's all going to play out, we're going to have to play the Alliance raid, which 7.1. So for those of you who are new, like, if you come in, you're going to have to wait. So Yoshi P does say there's plenty of content in 7.0, that all the stuff that's being held for 7.1 is just to help make sure that you don't feel bored or overwhelmed.
And if any of you want to try Final Fantasy 11, I know there's been several members of the community have gone and dipped their toe into that, and I know some communities have kind of done it as a group. And so if you want to go find it, there's a lot of 14 fans that are taking this as a chance to get into 11 while we have some gaps. Now, here comes our new Cyberpunk GPU Arcadion, A1 through 12S. Thank goodness that name won't be confusing. And so this will be released on the 0.0, 0.2, and 0.4. He said that it would be a month, and I don't know if that was like Savage will be a month, which is correct, but it should be 2 weeks to normal, 2 weeks to Savage, but it sounded like a month.
So like a month.
That would be a huge gap, because that means even if the expansion comes out on the earliest date that I predict it could, which would be May 31st, that would kick us out into July for Savage. Keep in mind that our last Savage was released with 6.41 May 30th of 2023. So we have been, so even for those of you that progress through that tier very, very, very slowly, we have had this Savage tier for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. It's a big ask. The ultimate raid coming in the 0.1. I know a lot of people predicted this, but it will be Eden themed, and they kept it with the patch name. One of the patch names from that expansion, Futures Rewritten, Ultimate.
I think that's great.
FRU, F-R-U. And then ongoing content. There will be a Blue Mage update. There will be more Hildebrand. He said this is expensive, but the team seems to like doing it. It says new plans for Deep Dungeons. They did not elaborate on why that one was phrased that way.
Chris and I are hoping that they'll let limited jobs into Deep Dungeons. Something like, well, we don't know.
New plans makes it seem like it's not just an update, but it's a deviation.
Yeah.
Because everything else just says like Golden Saucer update, PvP update. And then we knew we were getting new variant dungeons. We know that Island Sanctuaries will be carried forward. So new plans just seems like we need a little more info on that. But maybe that was just them expanding the text. Field operations. For any of you that did not like your relic being turn in tomes and then wait several months and then turn in tomes and then wait several months and then turn in tomes, we're going back to field operations. Something more in the style of Eureka and Bosja. Not really a whole lot more news on that. He addressed it in a interview, maybe a couple of interviews over the last week or so, and not a whole lot, but he just said the traditional, please look forward to it. And then here was my big excitement.
The new limited job, just the name. Just the name. And if you haven't seen it, we posted our reaction to it. Beastmaster is entering in the fray. Late 7.x. Late 7.x. Set expectations to 7.4 or 7.5.
Absolutely. We could be looking at FanFest all over again before this comes in game. We could. Doesn't mean we are, but we could. So kind of set it out that far. I know there are some people that really wanted it to be a primary job, in my opinion, because he said it would have some beast taming elements.
And collection elements, maybe.
And collection, I think was the exact word he used. Because of that, I think that, in my opinion, you don't want to have to worry about balance. Like, how many pets can you bring? Who cares? Like, what kind of pets can you have? Who cares? Because it's limited, you don't have to balance it around, traditional raid content, Savage content, 4-man content. It can just do whatever it wants. It's not allowed in PvP. And so, I look forward to that quite a bit. And then it's time for the graphical update. Guys, they didn't do a bunch of selling us merch this time, but they did do 30 minutes of... This is a lot of the same thing.
I would highly recommend, if you want to laugh along, if you want to have some fun, like, again, I'm not dogging it. I didn't like you. I think the darker skin tones is really where you can see the differences in these. But man, Chris and I, we were just having a lot of fun with this moment, because it's like, oh, can you spot the difference? They're the same picture. So but they do spend a lot of time, and I think that ends up being what tickles us the most. But you can see it more noticeably in any of the
darker the skin tone, the better it looks, because they were able to get reflections onto skin tones, which makes a bigger difference. Because in the past, the darker skin tones have had just different color variations, which they said in low light settings means that they don't really show up. And so lighting was kind of the big winner here, and then I think materials came out way better.
And I believe this was the only one that had like any kind of real reaction from the crowd in Japan was the Makoto.
That could just be male Miko. Like that may not even be
right. Anytime we see male Miko, you're right. It could be that. Yeah, for sure.
I don't know.
All right, let's get to the big winner.
My favorite quote was, "The crowd goes mild." That was my favorite one from the chat there. It was very quiet, and then they showed off dye channels.
Yeah,
crowd did cheer for this.
Yes, and so you could see here before, you could maybe dye from the blue to the red. Now you can also dye the silver to the gold and have two different dye channels. They highlighted in other areas. And we're just kind of wondering, and we'd love for you to weigh in the comments, how soon until the question, can we get 3 dye channels?
Which was already in the Twitch chat, but we're wondering how long until Yoshi P is officially asked in some form of Q&A. So the community already has the question, where's my 3rd dye channel? And he said that the artists, it's not possible right now, and the artists are, you just need to trust that their team is trying to make sure that it makes the largest and best representative artistic difference. But if there is more than 2 materials on a piece of gear, you're just going to get 2 dye channels. And so that's why the leather on that last one stayed the same in the middle, because it was a different type of leather. Additional updates. It's time for the minimum and recommended system requirements to increase. I don't know that I realized the game was this small, that 140 is an increase in size. I'm so used to games being over 100 gig now that when I saw that one, I was like, well, that's not a big deal. But apparently that is larger. Somebody in chat said Final Fantasy is only 75 gig. I was like, wow, that's like practically nothing.
That's nothing. It's like Call of Duty. It's like, hold my beer.
But yeah, Call of Duty goes that big for like a single trailer. But definitely take a look at these if any of you are on older rigs and you've been kind of putting off updating so that you get the most bang for your buck. It might finally be time. This happens every expansion. Somebody is out there that's like, I've been meaning to do it. Okay. So especially the RAM there jump from 8 to 16. That's something to pay attention to.
Yeah. Free
trial. This has been exciting. This is expanded to now include Stormblood. So if you have any friends that are trying to get in, the critically acclaimed trial, the free trial now including the critically acclaimed Stormblood, with unlimited playtime.
Yeah.
And then of course the Xbox beta coming in February.
And it's so weird that they like recently just tweeted out like coming, January and gonna run into February, and it's like, oh nope. Coming late February now, and that actually was speculation that Yoshi P does not want to run into an Endwalker delay situation. That was the only time in his career that something missed by 2 weeks, and I think that's why they're holding on to the date. They have an internal date, and then we're sitting here, like it could be. That's why I don't fall into the camp of Chris's early prediction. I think we're going to be seeing this.
I think that's the earliest possible date.
July.
But he doesn't want to have a 2-week move anymore. So even if the internal date was May or was June, the nice thing is right now, if they need to kick it 2 weeks because they didn't promise us anything, we're none the wiser.
Right. They haven't broken.
They didn't take our money. We're none the wiser.
Yeah.
And so by not committing to anything, even if they have an objective internally, they're in a much better spot.
Yeah.
So I'm optimistic based on today's presentation, but I didn't delete the July 26th portion of the spreadsheet. I just left it there. And I'm aware it could still be early. There's nothing stopping them from going August. His big confirmation is it would definitely be 2024. They're looking at summer. Pretty vague.
But while you wait for the release, Final Fantasy 16 crossover with Final Fantasy 14 is planned for early April. So hopefully that gives somebody something if they haven't played Final Fantasy 16 yet. We did not get a PC release date. I am almost finished with Final Fantasy 16. I have, I think, around 4 more quests to go. And then that will conclude that for me. And I'll see if I can't plan that for a live stream just so I can react to it while live. I'm very excited. I've been very much enjoying the story. So I hope that more people get the opportunity to play it when it is released. And I think PC will be a very exciting time. We know it's coming this year. We just don't know when. I thought, man, how cool would it be if Yoshi P slipped that in along with this? But he didn't. So we don't have that information yet for you.
Absolutely. They showed off the froth there.
Frothies.
And they look great. They said they were rare. Limcell begged to differ. And the big note here was now that we have added the last race, nobody will ever be able to say he said the last race. Maybe, probably, most likely.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Not really.
But probably.
Not committal.
But maybe.
Yeah, it depends on you. That was... Yeah, so now people are going to be asking.
But they are going to go ahead and give out a free Fantasia.
Yeah.
Is something that I did not expect. I cannot imagine how much money that costs them, because they have to know that if they did not give out a free Fantasia, they'd catch a little bit of backlash, it would smooth over, and a very large number of people would buy a Fantasia.
Yeah.
So that has not been something they've done every time that people have said they should. As a matter of fact, the majority of the time it's been, no, the Fantasia is the single best-selling thing in the Mog Station. It is a huge portion of their revenue. So I found that really generous, that now that they've got the graphical update, now that they're inviting in more players than ever before, and now that we have kind of all of the races are rounded out, that they are, giving you a chance to correct maybe what you would have done differently if you had current information.
Yeah. Now, Fido thinks Final Fantasy 16's PC release probably going to be around the time of the crossover. I actually was kind of hoping for that as well. April, May does give it plenty of room to breathe from Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. That is coming out in February. So that, I think, in and of itself starts to kind of like, maybe check some boxes. Who knows? I'm personally looking forward to it. I'm going to be picking up 16 again on PC, assuming they don't sign some epic store deal like they did with Final Fantasy 7 back then. I've got 7. I haven't played it. I'll be playing that as soon as I finish.
Epic says there should never be exclusives except when they do it.
Except for when they do it.
It's okay when they do it.
It's perfectly fine.
If anybody else does it, though, this is anti-consumerism. Here's your cover art, guys. Looks great. You will note there are some people on there that you cannot name.
Yep.
He said go ahead and speculate who they might be, what their backstories might be, as we prepare to go on a vacation that's going to take some weird turns. And then that's it.
Yeah.
They crossed 30 million lifetime players.
Yeah. Which is incredible. That's the goal that Yoshi P's been working towards.
It's something that he always it's a number he had actually mentioned in the past, is like, I wonder if we ever could. So that's a big kind of lifetime moment for them. There's not many games make it to that point, and the ones that do, there's so few of them that sometimes, when we talk about like World of Warcraft, that number is so much larger that it almost makes 30 million lose a little bit of the shine for just how much of an achievement it really is. I mean, even though that's far from what the concurrents are right now, the monthly active users of today, 30 million lifetime is still an enormous number of people to impact.
Yeah.
When they announce the date, I assume at a live letter, that's when we'll start to find out on pre-orders and the elusive statue, emotes, collector edition shenanigans. So expect that in, when we start to see live letter dates. I don't have that portion of my spreadsheet in front of me here to kind of predict when the next live letter should be, but they're not going to just drop it out of nowhere. Like it should be something. So if you guys haven't subscribed and tick that bell here, definitely do that so that we can kind of keep you up to date if you're not somebody that's actively subscribed right now, or kind of checking the lodestone regularly, because it won't be a surprise unless you're not currently plugged into the community. And then absolutely it will blow you by, because those will sell out instantly.
Yeah. And so if you guys want to get involved in more and have different content on different platforms, check the top link for the link tree. We've got everything from work to game, so much content for you guys, and especially for the podcast. If you guys want to enjoy this all in the form of an audio presentation for your convenience. That it is posted over there as well. So check the link to easily find the podcast platform of your preference and get subscribed as well. Anyway, Chris, you got any final thoughts before we wrap this bad boy up?
No, just thank you guys. There's a lot of people that stopped by today, and you know, this is kind of the beginning of the season that invites us all back into 14, and it's fallen at a time that it'll hopefully it's coinciding with me kind of doing more content, and so it's just exciting to see some faces. I just saw Flounder come in with 14 months of support, and it's been really great to kind of see everybody. I know many people have taken this time to go play other games, be involved in other communities, and that's awesome. But we of course welcome you back, and hopefully at the same time that, you know, I know Brian's working on a weight loss journey to come back to the game, and my new job's going great. But I have definitely missed the sheer quantity of Final Fantasy that I was getting to consume in a week. You know, weeks that it's like, what'd you do this week? It's like, well, I fished in Final Fantasy for 30 hours. Like, don't you have a job?
Yeah.
Yes. So I definitely miss this, and I miss being around you guys. That's it. Should have a couple of live letters. Should have some big, you know, some patch stuff.
Yeah.
And there'll be a media tour to cover. Whether or not we're invited, it'll be worth covering either way. We've always kind of covered what everybody else does, and put that together. And
we'll get the information, whether we're invited or not. So the question is are we allowed to share that information? Or are we going to be, you know, locked into an NDA? So it'll be fun one way or the other. So, guys, for Work to Game, this is Brian. That's Chris. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to end the portion of this recording. So be sure to like, subscribe, and share.